My older brothers were Francisco, like my mom wanted to name him Francisco, and Trinidad, like his uncle. His godfather's name was Trinidad.
And when's your birthday?
I was born in 1938, and one of them's 6 years older than me, and the other one is a little bit more, but I'm not sure when they were born.
And you were born on August 6th?
In August of 1938. But they are older than me.
And you were born in Belen?
Yes, I was born in Belen, and I made my first communion in Our Lady of Belen Church, which is the one where Amanda lives close by. That's where I made my first communion. I remember going over there. We had to walk. We had to pass the railroad tracks to get there. And we made my first communion, but I don't remember too much about it. Just that I felt so special because I was wearing a little white dress and a veil. And I must have been 6 or 7 years old at that time. Maybe 8, I'm not sure. I have a picture somewhere.
And where did you go to school as a kid?
I went to school at the Southside Elementary School. That was on oh boy, I can't remember the name of the street.
In Belen?
It was in Belen. Yeah. And now the school is there, but it's across the street. They built a school across the street from the old building. The old building is still there, and I don't know what it's called. Carmen knows because I asked her the other day. But there is a grade school there built where Mrs. Vance had her house and her land. And my mother worked for Mrs. Vance because Mrs. Vance would sell flowers to the mortuary. She would make arrangements for the mortuary, and she would make arrangements for the brides. And so she had the front of her house was fixed like a little store where she had flowers and ribbons and a refrigerator to keep the flowers, so she would order the flowers from somewhere else. But she also grew her own flowers in the backyard. My mother worked for her as a housekeeper to help her with the household chores. She had pigs and ducks and chickens, and so she would can her meat in the pressure cooker, and she had fruit trees. My mother helped her with canning of the peaches and the apples, and so I would go to wait for my mother across the street from the school as soon as school was out, which I was probably in 1st or 2nd grade. Go across the street, and the lady would tell me, yeah, you can wait for your mother, but you have to stay outside on the steps until she gets finished. She wouldn't let me go in. I was tired and hungry. I wanted to go in. And I had to wait outside on the bottom steps of the porch on the backyard. And so I remember that. But if my brothers were around, which they were a little older than me, which they probably didn't go to the same school, but I'm not sure, because if they were 6 years older than me, and that was just a grade school, maybe they were not in the same school. And that's why I had to wait for my mother when she got out of work. So I had to wait about probably an hour. I don't remember that. But I would wait for her, and then we'd walk home together, which was another 5 blocks from there where we lived. And there was nobody around, and there's a few houses there in that road. And the road is still there. And I have yet to go through that road to get to Jarales, because it's before you get to Jarales. And that road will lead you into Jarales. I think Carmen took me through there one time. I don't remember she took me through that road, but she took me through the road in Jarales, and I said, hey, why don't you turn here? She said, no, because it's faster through here. So she didn't take me through my road where our house used to be. But a long time ago we went. I told Daddy to take me, and he took me through there. The house is still there that we used to live in. It's fixed up nice, and the other houses are fixed up real nice because they weren't like that when we left. It was a sand road, nothing but sand because it's the very edge of the bosque where the river runs through there. And one time when I was little, it was raining a lot, and the river flooded a little bit, so our backyard had about 2 feet of water. And I wanted to go play in the water. So finally my brothers took me out after the rain finished it, and we were standing in about 2 or 3 feet of water. The whole area where the house was underwater. But the river's right there. And there's nothing but sand, but there was a fence. We never could go that way. But I remember that day that I told my brothers I wanted to go play in the water. So they got permission from my mom and we went outside. They held my hand the whole time. I don't know how old I was. Might have been 3 or 4. But those are probably the only memories I have of that time period of my life. And then as I got older, I must have been about 5. And my daddy said, I saw Santa Claus in town and he told me to give you a doll, to bring you this doll because he can't come over here to bring it. And it was a box with a little doll with a little bonnet and a little red dress. And it might have been, I don't know how big, but to me it was a big doll. It was in a box. And I remember that time. So I don't know how old I was then, but he made me believe that Santa Claus told him to go take the doll to Lillie because I can't go make that trip. I have so many things to do, and I believed him. Then after that, he took me. It wasn't after; it was before, I guess. He took me. I don't know when it was, before or after. He took me on his shoulders to go see them light the Christmas tree on Rankin and Main Street. That's where the First National Bank was, and it's not there no more.
Right by Amanda's house now. She lives right by Rankin and Main.
So we went to see the lighting of the Christmas tree in the front of the bank. And so I got so tired, he had to carry me on his shoulders, and I fell asleep. And by the time we got to, because it was going to be dark, and it was cold, and I fell asleep, but my 2 brothers saw the lighting of the Christmas tree, and they woke me up and told me, look, look, look. Oh, no, I want to go back to sleep. So I was on my daddy's shoulders, and I fell asleep. So I don't remember too much about that big Christmas tree that they had in front of the bank. But then later, kids talk about it, and the memory comes back. But I did get to go see the lighting of the Christmas tree. So I don't know if after that, it's when my daddy told me that Santa Claus had seen him in town, and he told him to bring me the doll. But I do remember that part.
How old do you think you were?
It could have been 5, I don't know. I don't have no idea, I just have those little bit of memories.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little pieces of it come in. And we were walking home one night, and it could have been that night. We couldn't find the road because there was not a single light, but we could tell it was our road because of the sand under our feet. And then my dad and my 2 brothers, well, my brothers were older than me, of course they were brave. Oh, Daddy, we could find the road, don't worry. We know where the posts are and where the barbed wire fence is and where the houses are that have an opening because there was barbed wire fences at that time. And so we all were holding hands and we were walking, but we could tell it was our road because of the sand under our feet. We finally found our way home, but it was completely dark. Or I was asleep. Either one. So we finally got home, but they were not afraid. They were trying to make it a good time so I wouldn't be afraid. And I knew that. I knew that they were trying to, oh no, we're fine. We know where our road is. Don't worry. And my mom, my 2 brothers, and my dad were trying to make it seem like it was no big deal. We'll find our way home. Maybe they could see better than me. Maybe because I was little. I don't know. But we finally got home. feeling our way with the fences and whatever, and holding hands so we would stay together. But it was so dark, not a single light from the sky or the moon or anything. And the house is all dark because people used candles at that time. They didn't have electric lights. And so when we got home, they lit the candles or the lamp. And then I saw a little bit of that, oh yeah, we're home, and I saw the lamp lit, and they started the wood stove and everything. They put me to bed. It was so cold that night, but of course the house is cold because we hadn't been there. And before you know it, the potbelly stove is going in the living room and the kitchen stove is going, and so the house starts getting warm. But I do remember being very cold, and I was crying in the morning. And I told them, I'm cold, I'm cold. So they lit the wood stove, and I wanted a drink of water, but the water bucket was frozen solid. So I couldn't have a drink of water, and I was crying. So finally they lit the stove, and it was very early in the morning. It was still dark, so the lamp was on. And they put my feet in the oven so I could warm up so I wouldn't be crying. They put a chair there, and they opened the oven door. My feet were there, and the wood stove was trying to get the fire going to warm up. But I was still crying because I wanted a drink of water, but there was no water because the water was frozen solid. So they put the bucket of water on top of the stove so it could hurry up and warm up so I could have a drink of water. The only thing I could remember when I was little. Oh, there's another thing too. And my daddy had brought something from town in a big box. He brought the big box. I don't know what had come in it, but it was a big box. And he said, we're going to make you a little house, a playhouse with the big box. So he drew the windows, probably with a black crayon, I don't know. He drew the black windows, and then he got the knife and he closed them, and he made a little door on the box. And he said, okay, get in the box, and then there's your little door and your little windows. And so I played in it for a long time. So that would be, what, a 5-year-old? Playing inside the box, something like that. And then my mom got some material. She pasted the little material onto the little windows so they looked like curtains. Oh, I had such fun. My daddy was right there with me. Maybe he wasn't working, I don't know. Maybe it was a weekend. But he was telling me, you're going to have fun in your little house that we built for you, made out of a box. I knew it was a box, but that's okay. I liked it anyway. I was having fun. So I don't know how old I was, but I remember that those loving times is what I remember. Those were the good times of a child. And you probably have the same memories when you were little, of how people treated you and how much they loved you and all that. That's what I felt. I felt a lot of love from my family. My 2 brothers always there taking care of me. So, and then my mother made me a pink dress. She used to sew for me, but that pink dress is the only one I remember. It was made out of satin, or what's that cheap material called that we use? It wasn't satin. It was just a shiny pink material. And she made it so pretty, a gathered skirt and a puff sleeves. But I wanted to play with the cats. And the cat pulled on my dress and snagged it, pulled the threads out. My mom got so upset. Look what the cat did to your new dress that I made you. That's probably why I remember the story, because she scolded me. Look that's what you get for playing with the cats and ruin your new dress that I made you.
What color was it, you
It was
said?
dark pink.
Dark pink.
Yeah, I like that color. It was a very pretty color of pink, and I think it had ruffles, white ruffles on the puff sleeve, and it was like gathered over here. But right here where the cat pulled the threads out, she was so concerned. She was upset because I was holding the cats and the cat was pulling the threads out of my dress and ruining my dress.
And then how old did you guys move to Albuquerque before
In
or after your...
1950, when I was 10 is when she decided to come, because we used to come in the bus. My brothers wanted to come too because they had friends and cousins here. And we would come in the bus, and I don't remember how much the bus cost, probably $1 or $1.50 or something. But then again, in those days, they didn't pay much. But she wanted to come to visit the family here to see if she could find a house for rent. So I came with her. She couldn't leave me alone. She used to leave me with a neighbor, but the neighbor had 5 daughters.
Was your dad still living when you guys moved here?
Yes, he was still alive. And he was very sick at the time. We didn't know what was wrong with him because he had had heat stroke. He didn't die of heat stroke, but later he did get heat stroke again. But I think he was drinking a lot. That's what he was so sick of. So he couldn't work. So she had to come to Albuquerque to find a job to keep us going. She wanted to sell the house we had because it wasn't finished. It had 3 rooms in the back, 3 rooms in the front, and he was building another room in the back. And she was the kind of person who doesn't let go. We have to buy a new stove. We have to fix the house. You know, that kind of lady who wants more and more and more. And he didn't have a job, so he couldn't afford to buy her everything she wanted. So she decided to come to Albuquerque to visit the cousins on 3rd Street. On 3rd and Bridge is the house where second cousin to my grandfather, the lady lived there, and his cousin. So we come to visit them to find out, and my mom was real outgoing and asking, well, aren't you related to Eduardo Moya and Santa Cruz and this and that? And yeah, and then Prima Elena lives down the street, go visit her. Maybe she has a room to rent for you, but we don't have one. So we walked over there. We rented from Elena a room upstairs for $10 a month, I think. She didn't even have. So when they sold the house over there, they got $3,000 for it. And with that money, he borrowed a big flatbed truck to come to Albuquerque. We put the wood stove on the truck and the couch, the mattress, and I don't remember what else on the flatbed. You know what a flatbed truck looks like? And somebody loaned him that truck. We moved to Albuquerque. We sold the house over there for I think $3,000. And with that money she rented, we lived off of it for a while. And then we found another place down the street from Elena Chavez. I think her name was Chavez, I don't know. Elena was a Salazar big house, and then next door was another house that they were renting, and it had 3 rooms, one right after another one. It's a duplex, and the other side was 3 rooms. And so we rented the 3 rooms and for $10 a month there. It didn't have running water. It had a wood stove in the kitchen. And so we used our wood no, I don't remember about the wood stove. I don't know if that house had already a wood stove in the kitchen or we put in the one we had. I don't know what happened to the one we had. I don't know whether she sold it or gave it away or whatever. But anyway, we lived there for about a year. That was in 1949 when we moved over here. And in 1950 he died in April. But he was very sick, and all he wanted was the wine. What's it called? Morgan David? No, not that one. I'll remember later what the name of the wine it was. He'd buy a gallon at a time.
Is it something Rossi?
No, I'll remember. Anyway, it was the cheapest wine there was. And down on Bridge Street and 8th Street and 4th Street, there was bars all the time. There were 3 or 4 or 5 bars. And so he would walk from where we lived, was about a block away, to Bridge Street to go buy his bottle of wine, and that's what he wanted. And he drank it, and he drank because he was already feeling depressed as it was because he couldn't work. And then he got cirrhosis of the liver with that bad wine that he was drinking. But as he drank more, he got worse. So we lived in that house for a year. And I went to a West Side School, which is where the cultural center is, that big thing there. I went to school there in 3rd and 4th grade.
Is it on Bridge and 8th?
Yeah. 3rd and 4th grade, I went to school there, but it was dangerous for me to cross Bridge Street because there was a lot of traffic. And every time I went to school, it was very dangerous because there's a lot of bars there too. So my mom wanted to change me to the other school, which is Coronado School, which is further away. And I was, I think, 3rd grade. So I went to Coronado School in 4th grade. And because in that school, what was it called? West Side? I don't know what it was called. Forgot what it's called. Well, that's where the cultural center is now. They didn't destroy that building of the school. It's still there. It's a little yellow building that's way to the back. And I was not happy there because the teacher would pick on me. For some reason or another, she would. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Maybe I was tired from the walk. Maybe I was scared. You know, what does a 3rd grader know? So I said, Mama, I don't like to go over there because there's a bunch of bars and old men drinking. And so she took me to Coronado School. She asked him if we could go over there because our district was on this side. But she said, my daughter cannot be crossing that heavy street in the morning when she has to go to school. There's too much traffic, too many bars there. So she changed me to Coronado School, and I went there in 4th grade. Well, I had something to say about Coronado. The teacher hit me with the ruler sharp like that on my hand. I told my mom, I was sitting there listening to her, and she comes and she hits me with a ruler like that. And
Were they nuns?
Huh? That was a lady teacher. But she was very old and grouchy. And she said I wasn't paying attention because she must have asked me a question or something, and I was just sitting there like a dummy. I mean, not when you're not smart and you're not paying attention, they get mad at you and you don't know the answer to the question that she asked. And she got mad at me, so my mom complained about it. So they changed me to another room. Crybaby me. That's the way I see myself now. Because I wasn't paying attention. I was daydreaming or whatever. But when you have to walk to school and you're only in 3rd grade, you get tired. By the time you get to school, you're sitting there halfway falling asleep, and the teacher's talking and talking, and you don't know what she's saying, so of course she's going to get mad. But I wasn't loud and boisterous and, causing problems, and I couldn't understand why she hit me. So my mom kept after the teachers and everything. She always was a good mom. She paid attention to me when I complained about something, and then she said, well, you're going to have to stay in this school and you're going to have to stay with that teacher. And so I was more alert and paying more attention so that I wouldn't get hit with the ruler. And I don't know if I did well or not. I don't remember that part. Okay, you better go take your nap or go to sleep right there. Turn it off.